My name is Karen Howard. I run the events with the Retail Bulletin, and I'm delighted to be running this session today on how payments are fueling innovation in the grocery sector. We've seen some stunning examples of retail transformation over the last year as we've had to adapt to the changes brought on by the pandemic. And those organisations that have been putting the customer at the centre of their strategy have been the clear winners, and payments have been key to this. It is now essential to offer a seamless omni-channel journey for all of our customers. To speak further to this, I'll be handing over to Fred, but first, can I ask anyone with questions to pop them in the Q&A function? I'll direct them to the relevant speaker at the end of the session, and if you'd like a deeper dive into any of the content after the session, we will be in touch by email. Also, we are recording the session, so if you'd like to share it with your team or any colleagues, we'll get this over to you in the next couple of days. Now, without further ado, I think most people have joined now. Fred, would you like to kick off?
Of course, yes. Thank you, Karen. And good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Frederick Frisren. I have been with Ingenico now Worldline for about 12 years and currently head the pre-sales team within our UK global sales and vertical organization. Today I'm joined by David Payet, who's part of our offer management team based in Paris. And during this webinar, we'll touch on some of the trends that we're seeing in the grocery industry, and we'll look at how payment technologies are bringing new shopping experiences to consumers. David and I will be happy to take any questions and answer them at the end of the presentation. So we'll hand over to Karen and then we'll go through the Q&A session. So let's first look at the trends that we're seeing in the grocery industry, including those that originated during the pandemic. So the first obvious trend that we witnessed is the move to online sales, and we've seen e-com growing at double its pre-pandemic speed. And this has forced grocery retailers to make significant changes to their business and to their operational models in order to meet the increased demand for online deliveries. So for instance, we've seen Tesco currently has about 35% of the online grocery market. They've had to double the number of online slots in a matter of weeks, and they hired nearly 50,000 temporary staff in stores and in their distribution center to cope with the higher demand. The economic impact of the pandemic and also price remaining a very important factor going forward has played a big part in the continued rise of the discounters. And we've seen Aldi and Lidl used to have a market share of about 5% in 2010, and that's really grown in the last 10 years, and they've reached, I think, a market share of about 15% in the UK. That's a massive increase within the last 10 years, and we expect that figure to rise again as a result of further store openings, particularly in London and the Southeast. So over the past months and years, we've witnessed that mergers or partnerships are leading to stores opening in existing stores. And that by that, I mean, we've seen it started with Sainsbury's, for instance, opening Argos and Habitat shops in their existing stores. And that trend has continued with Waitrose recently announcing that they were looking to open hundreds of generalist point of sales in their stores. So the concept of a shop in a shop has really a number of benefits for retailers, helps them reduce property costs, enables them to sell a wide range of products and services, and allows them to offer additional collection points for those who have a click and collect service in place. So as far as digital transformation is concerned, and as well as making changes to the business and operational models, the grocery retailers have continued to invest in new concept stores with the aim to remain relevant, attract new customers, and drive differentiation, but also to grow the average basket size. And David will take you through some of the examples of innovative concept that we've seen. During the pandemic, we've seen the grocery industry partnering with aggregators to allow customers to order from a range of essentials and deliver in as little as under 30 minutes. But more recently, I don't know if you've seen that in the news, but Deliveroo announced a major expansion of their grocery delivery services across another 125 towns. bringing to the total to about 300 overall. And along with the shift to online sales, we've seen the emergence of dark stores, which are generally large warehouses that can either be used to facilitate a click and collect service, where a customer collects an item that they've ordered online, or as an order fulfillment platform for online sales. So despite the pandemic, sustainability has remained key and really at the center of retailer strategies. Companies are now prioritizing several sustainable initiatives, including the introduction of alternatives to single plastic use, such as refillables for products like pasta, rice. Again, I don't know if you've seen this week, but Aldi have announced this week that they've actually started this concept in a number of stores as a trial. So that really makes it easier for shoppers to make sustainable choices and also reduce in-house waste. Pre-pandemic, the importance of local and quality were both growing in relevance, and I think the pandemic has accelerated that trend, with more people claiming to be buying more local products in lockdown and also buying better quality food and drink products. And finally, we've seen the increase in meat-free products, which I guess could be a direct consequence of the pandemic, which, as we've been told, originated from contact and/or consumption of animals. So consumers, I think, have become more conscious about their meat consumption, and I guess the strong likelihood is, that trend will continue. And I think people will, at least those who can afford it, will migrate towards higher quality products but lower quantity. And this has forced grocery retailers to make significant changes to their business. So let's now look at the trends that we are specifically seeing related to payments. So for instance, we've seen that retailers are continuing currently has digital technologies to make the in-store and online shopping experience more convenient and more efficient. They'll have to double the number of online stores. So this includes specific innovation. Nearly grocery retailers can make significant changes and distribution and to provide accurate pricing information to meet the economic impact of the pandemic and also price. For instance, Selfscanning currently about big part and 35% of discounts. And we've seen already markets they'll have to double the number of online used to have a market share of about 5%, nearly 50 units there. Really grows and in their distribution center, which uses a combination of about 15%. The economic impact of the pandemic and data price means that we are seeing that figure to ensure that has paid a big part of the take-up of store discounts. We've seen all the end London. Voice commerce is also important. Smart speakers used to have a market share of about 5%, and years ago become really mergers when your partnerships reached, especially spent a lot more market share about in existing scale. Around and that massive 20% smart speaker, we've seen it started with used devices against shopping activities also outside the store, drink products, stores in London, and that trend has continued tracking deliveries. That figure over the past recent rise again and years to about 50% during this year. Partnerships. Going forward, our leading concept of shopping in existing retail number of benefit shop tailors. By that, without ever having to look at it started with Sainsbury's able to sell worldwide look at the screen of their existing stores. That trend has continued as far as omnichannel is concerned. I think the classic omnichannel approach of being able to start a transaction in one channel, as far as digital transformation channels of shopping, as well as making changes benefits time but the business. I think we've seen more reduce the emerging retailers continue to enable them to sell a wide range of products with the aim to remain relevant and on the technology customers expect social differentiation video also become a great trend service consumers spend about 1/3 of their so the example of digital transformation concept. I think a recent study as well as making changes during the pandemic we've seen the grocery industry partner with aggregators retail allow customers to invest in new concepts, a range of essentials with the aim to remain relevant and we've also tracked new customers how a more recent differentiation with delivery of personality or data except gaps their grocery exam service in personal content by providing a range of bringing to the total experience pandemic, for instance, the grocery industry some with aggregators and along with the shift to online sales, customers a range of essential browsing shelves and the emergence of dark stores which are generally large and with a decline and in some cases using the used to facilitate in major expense retailers' grocery delivery services and digital and online, or as an order bringing to the top to retailers and brands sell their products. So despite the pandemic, with a shift to online sales and eBay as well as selling their own products, we've seen the emergence of dark stores, which are generally large, and the move towards a cashless society has been talked about instrumental alternative collect. However, no one predicts the mass production such as digital technologies or as an order faster rise. There was again for us to report this week. So despite the pandemic, last week sustainability has remained digital and methods for the first time taken trials. That really makes it now prioritizing several sustainable initiatives, including digital use, introduction of alternatives. We've also seen the emergence of pre-pandemic new methods such as referrals pay by link, where for products like sales assistance, RISE, QR code, again, I don't know if you've seen this week with customers' mobile device for payment. So going forward, a variety of fluid payment methods is crucial both in store and online. That really makes it easy for shoppers to select their preferred payment choices, no matter where they are. In-house waste. Pre-pandemic, to David now, who's going to talk you through some of the use cases that I've just talked about.
Thank you, Frédéric, and hello everyone. I'm David Payet. I'm working in the marketing team of GSV at Worldline on our offering for grocery retailers and restaurants. And it is really exciting to have the opportunity to share this content with you today. Over the next 15 minutes or so, I will talk you through a selection of grocery retail innovations that are enabled by payments. And we are going to cover first seamless checkout experiences, and in particular, the unmanned stores, which are undoubtedly one of the big trends in grocery retail when it comes to checkout experience. Then we will address self-scanning experiences, and it has been around for quite some time, but you will see that there are still some very convincing innovation there. And finally, we will talk about loyalty programs and how they now find their second wind as they become one with payments, allowing for much easier customer experience. And we chose to highlight these ones in particular because, well, for all of them, there has been something new happening recently. And on top of that, they all have a common goal, which is to propose experiences that makes consumers' lives easier. And well, at the end of the day, that is what all retailers are trying to achieve. Can you pass to the next slide, please? Regarding our first part on unmanned stores, let's start first by addressing the elephant in the room here. So yes, Amazon Go is now launched in the UK after Amazon Prime in 2015 and then Fresh in 2016. Amazon launched its Go concept in the UK in 2021. And if we are to believe press articles on the matter, at least another 30 Amazon Go outlets are planned in Britain. And for those of you who didn't have a look in detail at the Go experience before, well, it's quite simple. First, you have to download the Amazon Go app and register. At the store entrance, you check in with your app to open the entry gates. Then you just do your shopping as usual. And finally, when you walk out, there are no lines, no checkout, and that's basically what the Amazon ad says. So what's special about it? In my view, there are several things. First of all, years ago, Amazon basically invented the one-click payment for e-commerce on their website. And now they're inventing the zero-click payment in store. Then it is the first cashless store concept fully open to public. And as such, I'd say that it sets the bar for the whole industry. And finally, it paves the way for partnerships with other retailers. They are probably trying to do right now, as it was the case for other Amazon services before becoming B2B products like Amazon Pay or AWS. So you could say, okay, but what if my phone runs out of battery? Then I can't enter the store, I can't check in. Well, to answer that and many other needs, Amazon is experimenting with the Amazon One concept, which is illustrated on the right-hand side here. And basically, consumers use their hand to identify themselves at the store entrance. And the enrollment for this service is done at dedicated terminals in store. So first you insert a credit card and then you scan your hand or both hands, and that's it. And this is exciting because it removes the last remaining frictions of the Go experience, which is the app download and the QR that you have to scan for check-in. And so let's stay tuned for news about that if or when it gets out of the US. Moving on to other similar initiatives in Europe, and let's start with the Carrefour concept store. So it's based on computer vision technologies, just like Amazon, and biometric authentication. So computer vision, it's basically the complicated word for cameras working together with artificial intelligence. It's basically what powers most of the unmanned stores concepts out there. And the journey here proposed by Carrefour is quite simple. First, you download the mobile app and you register with your personal info. You put in there your card credentials, and finally you take a selfie. And that's the new step in their journey. When you enter the store, you shop as usual. And at checkout, you just stand in front of a kiosk that will identify you, confirm your basket, and process the payment. And what I find very interesting in that is that there is absolutely no check-in required. There are no entry gates. You don't have to open an app and so on. So that means that you can have customers using traditional checkouts in the store at the same time, which is obviously not the case in the Amazon use case. And the other remarkable thing is that the customer basically checks out with his hands in this pocket. He doesn't use his phone, doesn't click anywhere, and this is what I call hands-free payment. And finally, we have been working with Monoprix to deliver, which is one of the first completely unattended grocery stores in France, and they call it the black box, as you can see on this picture here. It is based on a container format with 24/7 access. And as you can imagine, this kind of store could be very interesting in small urban areas or in specific locations where you have a lot of traffic outside of regular opening hours. And the customer journey here is quite different. First, you check in with a payment card or a wallet to enter the box. Then you pick your products as usual. And when you're done, you confirm the basket content on the screen in the box, and you leave the box. And what really stands out here is the reach and scalability of this experimentation. Reach because, well, anyone just passing by can stop and shop with just a payment card or a mobile wallet, Apple Pay or Google Pay. There's no app download and there is no enrollment process. And scalability because the technology is actually less complex than others. For example, there are no cameras here. And on top of that, the box format allows for easy setup almost everywhere. And on that note, Monoprix is planning to roll out this concept in companies HQ, in train stations, in hospitals, and so on. And finally, we are very proud to say that in both cases, Worldline played a major role in designing and delivering the innovative payment experience. And we also leveraged our network of fintechs and paytechs to think about the customer journey and help remove frictions, and particularly thanks to our annual e-payment challenge. Now, let's dive into the second part of this presentation, focusing on innovations around self-scanning. And first, let's talk about what already exists almost everywhere, which are the hand scanners that you can see here on the picture. I suppose you all know them because they are everywhere in your local supermarkets. On the retailer side, they cost a lot of money for sure, but all in all, it is worth it. So merchants have installed them in many stores. And on the consumer side, they make life a bit easier. So that's why people tend to use them. Indeed, they allow you to, amongst other things, obviously, but they allow you to know your total basket amount each time you scan a product. And in most cases, you get to check out with a dedicated lane. And all that is good enough to convince 5 to 20% consumers. But what if life was even much easier? What if, for making the effort of scanning all the products yourself, you got a truly rewarding checkout experience? And that is exactly what we have been working on and designing and delivering for a leading grocery retailer in France. In practical terms, the journey is the following. To pick up a scanning device, such as the one that you are seeing here, instead of scanning your loyalty card, which you do today, you tap or you insert a payment card or you use a mobile wallet. Then the device is unlocked and you can use it to scan your basket as usual. And when you're done, you just leave it to a staff member and you walk away. And we are very proud of this achievement because it works for everyone and it brings a whole lot of additional value to something that already exists. And it allows to leverage mostly investments that retailers have already made. And innovation doesn't always need to be complex and techy. And here is the perfect example of that. It's just simple and efficient. Let's stay focused on that same topic, which is the value that self-scanning can bring. But this time, we'll have a look at mobile self-scanning, meaning consumers using their smartphone to scan products themselves during their shopping. And I won't talk much about the generic benefits of such services because, well, they're well known now, and many retailers use them, propose them in the UK and across Europe. I would rather focus on the flaws of the existing solutions and what we can bring to try and improve the current situation. And here again, our main focus is to help merchants solve issues and improve their customer experience. What I truly believe to be the key success factors for mobile self-scanning, well, it's actually summarized in the subtitle here, it's reach and customization. Reach because you need to be able to address a maximum number of consumers, and customization because we all know that grocery retailers need that flexibility to integrate their loyalty programs, their promotional campaigns, specific payments method that they have, private label gift cards, and so on. And using that as assessment criteria, I will talk you through the main models that a retailer can pick from when going for mobile scan and pay experience. And the first one is third-party apps. They offer no or very little customization because obviously they serve many merchants at the same time. And on top of that, an app download is required, and automatically that means that your potential reach is low to average at best. The second way to go is to integrate the service in the merchant app. And this is probably the most commonly method seen in the market. And this time you have as many customization as you can deliver as a merchant, but you still lack the necessary reach. In Europe, in average, I find that having 10% of your loyalty membership base enrolled on your mobile app is already a good performance on the grocery market. But at least in my book, 10% reach for a new service, it's not good enough. Next, you could leverage mobile wallets, not all of them, but in some cases. For example, Apple recently launched a service called AppClip, which allows to launch bits of iOS applications without having to download those apps. So as a consumer, you could scan a QR code with your iPhone when you enter a store to access your self-scanning service stored in the merchant app and do your shopping. And this would work even if you don't have the app set up on your iPhone. So this will improve the reach of your service because the download of your app is not necessary anymore. But then you have issues trying to cope with all the platforms, with Android, with iOS, and so on. It gets more complex. To solve those issues, we created Worldline Scan and Pay. And we believe that we believe this to be the perfect balance between all these models. Because there is no app download necessary. We use a progressive web app technology. Basically, you can have a mobile app in your mobile web browser. It's built for retail and it's customizable. And finally, it is fully white labels. From a consumer standpoint, the service is all yours and you can guarantee data privacy. We are actually working with grocery retailers right now to launch pilots with this service. And we think we have a very exciting future ahead of us with that. Finally, we'll address the last part of this webinar, focusing on how we can bring together mobile payments and loyalty to deliver better experience. Let's start with mobile payments. Again, you all know it, whether you're using Apple, Google, Samsung payment solutions. They work great. With one tap of your phone, you have paid and you're done. And the numbers of users prove that. It has gone up dramatically over the last 3 years, and there is nothing new here. The only thing is that it is made for payment only. And as a consumer, you need more than that. You have a loyalty card, you have benefits to redeem, you may have coupons in your wallet available from your last purchase. And well, honestly, what's the point of having fast mobile payments if I still have to go for my wallet and find the right loyalty card in there? To answer that, Apple and Google both launched loyalty capabilities that they call digital passes. You can get loyalty cards, tickets, coupons, and more in there, but the experience is not as good as payments. You have to unlock your phone, open an app, get your pass, and have it scanned by the staff. In a nutshell, that's better, but still we are missing something. And that's the reason why we created Worldline Tap and Connect. We wanted to get the best of those worlds, of both worlds. So we partnered with Apple and Google to propose the easiest way to pay, earn, and redeem your rewards. And while doing so, we also partnered with digital loyalty specialists to be able to help grocery retailers enroll new loyalty members with a much smoother and faster experience. Now let's see what it looks like in real life. And here is the example of Carrefour in France, but there are others available in the market, like Woolworth, for example, in Australia. And on the first picture, you can see a standard Apple Pay payment. So exactly the same as it has been for years. On the middle picture, you can see a first example of what Worldline Tap and Connect can bring. So with one tap, you pay, you earn, and you burn. And as you can see, the main difference is that the loyalty card has been applied automatically. It means that it seems like a small detail on the screen, but it makes a huge difference for consumers. Because each time you pay, you are certain that you use the correct loyalty card without having to make any effort for that. And finally, on the last two pictures on the right-hand side, you can see an example of easy loyalty subscription. The journey is quite easy to explain. Let's take Apple as an example, but the experience is quite similar on Android smartphones. You pay with Apple Pay, and you don't have a loyalty card. So that's the situation. After your payment, you will automatically receive a mobile notification introducing the benefits of the loyalty program, so that you can see on the screen. When clicking on that notification, you get a registration form as displayed here, and all the fields are already pre-filled from your contact details, which are stored in your iOS account. So you confirm that and it's done. You are officially enrolled in the membership club of the retailer. And this experience is made possible by the unique solution we have implemented that connects all the pieces of the ecosystem. So Worldline acceptance solutions, of course, but also Apple's products and the merchant loyalty program. And I deeply believe that this will be one of the next revolution in mobile payments. And grocery retailers with a massive loyalty customer base will be at the center of that revolution. And well, I'm saying that because it just makes people's lives easier and much easier than mobile payments alone. And it is as simple as that. Well, it has been great to share these innovations with all of you. As it is now time to conclude this webinar, I will hand over the floor to Frédéric.
Thank you, David. So as consumers, we're now all expecting a seamless and consistent checkout experience, regardless of whether the transaction was processed online or in stores. Shoppers also want to be able to switch between channels, and they want to start their journey in one channel and complete it in another. So it's no longer enough to offer different channels. Retailers must now ensure that the shopping experience provided in store and online is completely seamless, and I think omnichannel will play a crucial part in this process. Another way to provide a seamless shopping experience will be to reduce the number of steps required to complete a purchase. And I'm sure that most of you have experienced the same feelings of frustration when it comes to queuing or when the payment process goes on far longer than required. So it's clear that when you've made a decision to purchase, you want to pay quickly using your preferred payment method. As far as tokenization is concerned, I think it has and it will remain at the core of the omnichannel experience, as well as allowing retailers to store customer details online securely and enabling things like speedy one-click checkouts. Tokenization allows for all sorts of unique data insight to provide extra benefits to retailers. So, for example, enabling them to figure out when the payment journey started, where it was completed, or the percentage of online versus in-store sales, just to name a few. And as well as this, using tokenization can enable retailers to implement recurring payments, subscriptions, so that customers don't have to continue to order something they want to buy repeatedly. And finally, I think retailers can use tokenization in loyalty programs and rewards to consumers. And this is another of the many ways that tokenization can be used in all parts of the retail process, really to store valuable information that helps retailers to then tailor and personalize the consumer experience. And finally, a word on PSD2. So one of the main changes within PSD2 involves the mandatory use of SCA, so secure customer authentication, which is absolutely vital if your customers pay online using a card, debit or a credit card. And although the responsibility to implement SCA lies with the payment service provider, you need to be aware of the risks and the impact on your business, and you'll need to balance this new layer of security, customer security, with ensuring that the buying experience is still as smooth as possible. Otherwise, you run the risk of frustrating customers and leading them to abandon purchases. So that concludes the presentation. Thank you all for your time. I hope you found the webinar useful and interesting, and I'll now hand over to Karen for the Q&A. I think you're on mute, Karen.
It's always the way, isn't it? There's always somebody. Well, that's my job. Thanks, guys. That was really good. I love your presentations. They always leave me wanting to know more. And as always, every single one of those slides could have been an event on its own. So thank you for that. Some of the questions that have come through, I'm going to start with the most predictable, because we've had this one on various sessions that we've run with you guys. I'll direct this to you, Fred. Do you expect fraud to rise with the predicted increase of the contactless at £100?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're not expecting a noticeable impact on fraud, given that the cumulative limits in place where consumers are prompted to enter their PIN when making in excess of 5 consecutive contactless transactions. So after 5, you actually requested to enter PIN. So from a merchant or consumer perspective, I think there would be no additional exposure, since the fraud risk sits with the card issue of the contactless transaction. So the answer is we don't really expect to see a rise or even a big rise.
Yeah, I think it's a common concern both for retailers as well as consumers. And finally, to you, Fred, how is Brexit affecting UK supermarkets and shoppers?
Yeah, the impact, and I guess we could turn the question round to people on the call. But I mean, I don't think people have seen the impact, and I don't think the impact has been visible on our supermarket shelves. And it's not clear whether this is due to retailers absorbing the logistical costs in the short term, or because manufacturers are obliged to honor prices that were agreed a long time ago. So I guess there are more regulations going forward. A number of them are set to come into force this month and then again in July. So I think there's still a potential for consumers to find that the grocery shop starts to cost more. And I guess time will tell until as early as 2023, when all the new rules will be rolled out.
Yeah, time will tell on that one. Right, David, I've got a couple of questions for you. We are running out of time, so we might have to wrap it up after that. David, you talked about unmanned stores earlier. Do you really think that this is something that will become a dominant trend in the UK?
Well, I'd say that it's definitely too soon to tell, but what we know actually is that there are experimentations everywhere in Europe. Just to name a few: Carrefour and Monoprix in France, Albertine in Netherlands, Migros in Switzerland, and actually most recently, a few weeks back, Co-op in Sweden. And now, as we mentioned, Amazon in the UK. We also know that in Asia, the market has doubled almost every year for the past 5 years, and it is expected to reach 250 million users by 2022. But going back to the UK, what I can say of that, I'm sure, is that if retailers succeed to propose an experience that truly make their customers' lives easier while managing the must-haves, which are obviously payment security, data privacy, crystal clear instructions for the consumer, then yes, it could very well have a quick development. And at Worldline, we definitely have the products and the experience to help grocery retailers do just that.
See, once again, we could do a whole session just on that fascinating subject, and I'm sure retailers and certainly our community will be interested in more on that one. Now, I've scribbled this question down, and I hope I get this right, David, because there's a quote in it. You said that mobile self-scanning or scan pay has been around for a while. That's true, and honestly, to this day, I don't see a huge traction from customers. Why do you think that there is a future for that kind of experience in retail, in grocery retail specifically?
Thanks for that question. As far as I know, up until now, all experimentations and services launched in the UK have been either embedded in merchant apps or in standalone apps, but controlled by merchants. And as I said earlier, key success factors are reach and customization. You can't ask a consumer to download an app for checkout and expect massive positive feedbacks. I mean, downloading an app nowadays is a serious effort from a consumer, and you can't expect that from him until you've proven yourself to the consumer. Then I believe that Scan and Pay is a great addition to a retailer's full range of checkout propositions. In some cases, it's really relevant. You want to grab lunch, for example, very quickly. You want to skip the line. So that's great. And in some other cases, it may not. So in a nutshell, I'd say that it is something that will be relevant in some cases. And in those cases, it will bring something new and useful for consumers and for retailers, of course.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And I hope those guys who asked the questions are happy with that. Those who have asked questions that we haven't got to, we will come back separately on email. And like I said at the front of the session, we're recording this and we're going to send it through to you so you can share with your colleagues. If you want a deeper dive into some of the content, then the stars of our show here, Frederick and David, their contact details will be on the email so you can get hold of them afterwards. And I think that's a wrap. But like I said, any questions, come back to us on email afterwards. And I'd like to thank you very much, Frederick and David, for joining and heading up the session for us today. Thank you.